5 weeks ago, we had a tragic incident in Tuscaloosa where a young woman was murdered. The Alabama basketball player that was involved in that situation, Darius Miles, was, released from the team the very next day and is involved in the trial now. Well, we found out this week that star player Brandon Miller also, at a preliminary hearing this week, played a small part in that, at least with the firearm being transported in his car potentially, or at least that he was present at the scene. Has the University of Alabama handled this situation poorly in your mind? Brandon Miller was not suspended. He, in fact, scored 41 points against South Carolina this past week and had the game-winning shot. Or is this just an overreaction from the rest of the country?
No, they handled it poorly. But is there an overreaction from the rest of the country? No question about it. So much of what the reaction is has nothing to do with what really matters here. Okay, a simple observation. Your question was, has Alabama handled it appropriately and suitably? The answer is no. Okay, that was the question. I want to make sure everybody understands that, particularly those of you writing in alabama.com.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start there. Okay, that was the question. When you see every part of leadership get it wrong, you've got to point it out. Jay, your reaction, and I saw it briefly the other day, was one that was going to happen when it's handled in such a manner. I don't think that people get the fact that when you're not right there, okay, when you're from distance, whether it's the distance between you and Atlanta, Tuscaloosa and Atlanta, or Tuscaloosa and Shreveport, Louisiana, the bottom line is that's the image and impression we see.
Yeah.
And images and impressions matter. That's what Spencer Tillman tells me all the time. Okay. And the damage can be done long before you attempt to walk it back, which was what happened in the aftermath of the game with Oates. I mean, he tried to walk something back that you can't really walk back well in the wake of a death and families that are already impacted negatively when you say what you did in his original presser. And to come back and say, well, I didn't have all the details. Well, that's crisis management 101.
Yeah.
You got to have the details. Why wasn't his superior giving him the details? Because clearly they understood something was going on, because as the athletic director, who, by the way, I think a lot of, he's a friend of mine. I think Greg Byrne is a strong AD when it comes to handling sports administration, but he handled this inappropriately. When you looked at that pod that Reese Davis did, what was my takeaway from that? The lawyers had gotten to him. Here's what you can say. Here's what you can't say. And it seems, at least from that end, that their concern at Alabama might have been more about getting Nate Oates a contract extension than it was about what was really going on that was a heck of a lot more meaningful to the program overall, and specifically to Brandon Miller. And then what Oates said after the South Carolina game, he apologized for poor words. He said, I didn't use the right words. My choice of words was poor. Well, he's gotten to a point now where he's given us some contrition. Now I'm ready for the extended apology. What about Brandon Miller?
Yeah.
Because the judge and jury here has already convicted Brandon Miller. We don't know the details yet, the specifics that we need to know to understand, how culpable Brandon Miller really is. We know what's in that report, the initial report, but we don't know the actual specifics. So simply to make an observation, first and foremost, your concern should be about the victim, the victim's family. And then next, you should be protecting the player, if in fact you believe he is innocent until proven guilty. And I thought, in a lot of ways, Brandon Miller, when you say in that initial press conference, and he did say this, hey, you can't control what they do with all their off time. I mean, he was in the wrong spot at the wrong time. What, real, huh? That's not something a leader is supposed to say. The head coach is a leader. The athletic director is a leader. The president of the university is a leader. And in all three phases of leadership, Alabama failed. Period.
That's the best way I've heard it put.
Yeah, I think
right there.
so.
That's the best way I've heard it put. Hey, YouTube, appreciate you guys. Just got to 50K. Want to get to 100K even faster. So make sure you subscribe. Grab somebody, make them subscribe, and then let them go before they call the police. Thank you guys. Y'all are the best.